All right, today we're diving into something called Midnight. It's a brand new blockchain project, and its goal is, well, it's pretty radical. The idea is to let us all use the power of the internet, the power of crypto, but without having to broadcast our entire private lives to the whole world.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single time you use an app, any service online, you're basically making a trade, right? You get something convenient, something useful, but what are you giving up? Well, almost every time, it's your personal data. And that tension, that trade-off, is really at the heart of our digital lives. And honestly, it's a problem that's getting way harder to just ignore.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Why is the system we have right now, well, kind of broken? It doesn't matter if we're talking about the good old traditional internet or even some of the first blockchains. Our data is way more exposed than most of us probably realize. So first up, let's look at the classic Web 2 model. Facebook, Google, the whole shebang. We hand over our private data to a company, they stick it in their big central database, and boom, you've just created this massive honeypot that hackers are just drooling over. And we've seen it happen over and over again, right? It leaves all of us totally vulnerable to leaks, to breaches, and to having our most sensitive info misused.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, weren't public blockchains supposed to fix all that? And yeah, that was the idea, decentralized control. But they created a whole new problem. See, by their very design, they make every transaction public. That means anyone can see the metadata, that digital footprint of who sent what, to whom, and when they sent it. And once that's out there, it's pretty easy for someone to track and connect all your activities. Which, let's be honest, is the exact opposite of private.
And that exact dilemma is what Midnight was built to solve. The whole point is to give us the awesome security and decentralization of a blockchain, but finally pair it with the privacy we all expect and frankly deserve. It's really all about getting the best of both worlds. And here's how they're doing it. With a dApp, a decentralized app built on Midnight, your private data actually stays with you. It never leaves your control. Instead of sending your sensitive info, you just send a special kind of cryptographic proof. The network can look at that proof and go, yep, that's valid, without ever seeing the actual data behind it. So the company gets the confirmation it needs, but here's the kicker. They collect zero data from you. Pretty cool, right? So the main takeaway here is that Midnight is, at its core, a data protection network. It uses this amazing technology called zero-knowledge proofs, and don't worry, we're going to break that down in a sec, to let you prove something is true, without revealing any of the secret information that makes it true. This means you can finally protect your data, keep ownership of it, and still use it for all the useful things you need to do.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's the tech behind this magic? How does Midnight actually pull all of this off? Okay, so the absolute core of this whole thing is something called a zero-knowledge proof, or ZK proof. Now, I know the name sounds super complex, but the basic idea is actually pretty simple to grasp. Imagine you have a secret key to a locked door. A ZK proof is like being able to prove to someone you have that key without ever showing them the key. You don't even have to describe what it looks like. You just walk up and open the door. That's it. That's the magic right there. Proof, without revealing anything.
But look, having amazing tech is one thing. It's totally useless if nobody can actually build with it, right? And that brings us to a really important number, 2.
So why 2? Because Midnight is built using TypeScript. And TypeScript just happens to be the second most popular programming language on the entire planet. And let me tell you, this is a huge deal. It means that literally millions of developers who are already out there can start building private apps on Midnight, like tomorrow. They don't have to go learn some weird, complex niche language from scratch. This just completely smashes the barrier to entry for innovation.
Midnight also does something really clever with its economics. It's not just one token. They've got this unique 2-token system. So let's break down how these 2 tokens, Night and Dust, actually work together.
The key thing to understand here is that these 2 tokens have totally different jobs. First, you've got Night. Think of this as the public or unshielded token. It's for governance, for rewards, you can trade it, and it helps secure the whole network. Then you have Dust. This is the complete opposite. It's the private or shielded fuel that powers transactions. Because it's shielded, it protects all your metadata. But get this, it's not transferable and it actually decays over time, so it acts more like a little bit of energy than actual money. It's a really clever design that gives you privacy while also thinking ahead about some of the regulatory headaches you can get with private assets.
Okay, this is all cool tech, but so what? How does this stuff actually get used to solve real problems for real people and businesses? Why does this idea of programmable privacy even matter?
Well, the project's light paper points to 3 really powerful use cases right out of the gate. First, creating secure digital identities that you control. Second, being able to tokenize assets privately, so you can prove you own something without revealing all the sensitive details. And third, building voting and polling systems that are resistant to fraud and actually protect everyone's anonymity.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine being able to prove you're over 21 without ever having to flash your driver's license with your address and your exact birth date on it. Or what about tokenizing a piece of property, maybe to use it as collateral for a loan, without broadcasting your name and home address for the whole world to see on a public ledger? Or even just letting members of a club or an organization vote on something securely and totally privately. This is the kind of stuff that becomes possible.
So what's next for Midnight? Where's this all heading? Well, the project isn't just rushing things out. It's being rolled out in really careful, planned stages.
Right now, the network is moving along a clear path. It started with a private DevNet for the early builders to play around with. Then it'll move to a public testnet for more widespread testing. After that comes the big one, the full mainnet launch. And that's even going to include bridges to other blockchains, like Cardano. But they're not stopping there. The Beyond phase gets even more ambitious, talking about things like cross-chain consensus, basically allowing validators from other big networks to help secure Midnight. It's a huge vision.
And all of this brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. Midnight is basically providing the building blocks for what it calls programmable privacy. It's putting the control right back where it belongs, in the hands of users and developers. So the real question we're left with is this. In a world where privacy isn't some afterthought, not a problem you have to constantly worry about, but a feature you can literally build with, what could you create? What new ideas, what new applications finally become possible?